In Cleveland, about the only one who's smiling these days is the Cleveland Indian. But what he's witnessed these autumn afternoons high atop his perch over cavernous old Municipal Stadium is enough to even turn his grin into a scowl. For the Cleveland Browns, once one of football's finest franchises, are on the precipice of disaster. The man in the hot seat is head coach Nick Skorich, whose job is rumored to be in jeopardy, but the blame must be shared by the entire organization. Many markets declined with the trade of Paul Warfield for draft rights to Mike Phipps, although the swapping of Ron Johnson for Homer Jones was even worse. Or perhaps it's the natural erosion of talent due to an annually high draft position. For leveling is its purpose, and Cleveland, along with former powers like Baltimore and Green Bay, have felt its effectiveness. The quarterback is always most visible, and Mike Phipps has never overcome the burden of replacing hometown hero Warfield. The fans' wrath has grown, as has the cries for his backup, little-known Brian Sipe. No matter who's at quarterback, his past targets, with one exception, are pedestrian. Steve Holden was inexplicably put in the closet his rookie year, but this season has been sensational. Unfortunately, he's missed 4 of the 6 games with a knee injury, and his effectiveness is now in doubt. With an attack as sparkling as the current Dow Jones averages, Cleveland needs a healthy Holden. The offensive line, which once consisted of such great names as McCormick, Sandusky, Groza, and Hickerson, now ranks dead last in the entire NFL in protecting the passer, with 24 sacks. The running with Greg Pruitt, Hugh McInnes, and Ken Brown has been exceptional, however. Today's opponents, the Denver Broncos, never seem to get out of the shadow of the Raiders and Chiefs in their Western Division. But they are 3-2-1, and for this game have an edge against Cleveland in quarterback Charlie Johnson. When Johnson was with St. Louis years back, he somehow always found a way to beat the Browns. So on this bright Sunday in Cleveland, it seemed the sun was setting on an old power as the Denver Broncos faced the Cleveland Browns in the NFL Game of the Week. For most of the first half, the Bronco defense gave the Browns offense little opportunity to move the ball. In particular, they gave Cleveland quarterback Mike Phipps fits. When Phipps got the ball away, he viewed virtually every pass from the prone position, and on 4 attempts he could find no open receiver and was stretched out with the ball still in his possession. Part of Phipps's problem was that the Browns had practically no running game at all in the first half to keep the heat off the harried quarterback, as 3 Cleveland runners could amass just 23 yards. Number 30, Ken Brown, managed just 7. Hugh McInnes 12, and mercurial Greg Pruitt got exactly 4 yards. But the Broncos weren't traveling far either, and despite Cleveland's anemic stats in the first half, the Broncos could not manage to put the game away early, and they permitted brittle Charlie Johnson to be sacked 3 times himself. But Johnson had something that Phipps did not, a running game. And by using deft fakes on play-action passes, set up by a more balanced attack, Johnson was able to mount 2 scoring drives in the first half. Repeating this play from another angle reveals that Johnson made a strong fake to Otis Armstrong, then hid the ball on his hip before finding a wide-open Billy Van Heusen for 37 yards. Play fakes don't mean much unless there's a running game to back them up. And using Armstrong, number 24, who rushed for 44 yards in the first half, Johnson sustained the Broncos' first drive. At 5'10", many experts said that Armstrong was too short to play in the same backfield with less than 6-footer Floyd Little, but both are strong runners. And looking at this play again, we can see that Armstrong pulled out of the grasp of 265-pound Walter Johnson to advance the Bronco drive 13 yards. From the Cleveland 12, Johnson pumped once and hit tight end Riley Odoms for the score as Denver broke on top 7-0. There's Growing sentiment around the league that Odoms is pro football's premier tight end. He's a great blocker, excellent catcher, and when he's got the ball, he's at his best. On the touchdown play, Odoms was grabbed almost instantaneously by Walt Sumner, and even when help arrived, Odoms was still able to muscle across. Denver fans, expecting to see the Broncos in the title chase, were somewhat disappointed in a 3-2-1 start, but Johnson was injured for several of those games. But he was 3 for 3 for 62 yards on the Broncos' first possession, and a healthy Charlie Johnson was moving the Broncos again. This time, Johnson was 2 for 2, and from the 13, he hit Jerry Simmons on the identical play that he speared Odoms on moments earlier. Simmons also had to fight the last 2 yards, going over Tom Darden instead of Sumner, and Denver led 14-0. The Browns were able to get close twice in the first half, but on each occasion, the sacks socked their drive backward. The first opportunity was set up when Phipps hit Jim Thaxton for 34 yards to the Bronco 20-yard line. Another look from our ground level camera shows that Phipps was indeed forced to throw under pressure. Number 79, Barney Chavez, got to Phipps, but Phipps had gotten the ball away. 2 plays later, he was not so lucky when number 77, Lyle Alzado, leaped over Doug Deacon and nailed Phipps for a 13-yard loss, taking Cleveland out of field goal range. The Browns got close again when Phipps went straight back and spotted Hugh McInnes streaking out of the backfield. Play gained 55 yards to the Denver 7, but with a 3rd and goal from the 6, that old bugaboo, the sack, stalled the Browns' drive. Fortunately for the Browns, Phipps' fumble came after the whistle. Though they did not get the touchdown, they at least kept the ball, and Don Cockroft's field goal made it 14-3 Denver. With 36 seconds to go in the half, Johnson drove the Broncos toward getting that 3-pointer back with a pass to Otto Stowe, who made a super catch. Stowe's catch is even more remarkable in that Van Green was called for face guarding, and the gain would have counted anyway, but upfield, the Broncos were called for holding, and the offsetting penalties nullified the play. Undaunted, Johnson went up top again, eluding the Cleveland rush and hitting Haven Moses for 17 yards. Then, using the sideline, Johnson spotted Floyd Little, who bobbled but got out of bounds on the Cleveland 30 with 7 seconds left in the half. Jim Turner lined up a 47-yarder, one that might not have been tried were there more time left in the half. For under the new rules, his miss would have been brought back to the line of scrimmage into good field position. But no matter how long or how hard he stared at that ball, obviously not a member of the Body English School, Turner could not make it go through. And though Denver's defense had totally stymied Cleveland in the first half, the Broncos led by only 14-3, and the Browns were still in the football game. As is his custom, Denver head coach John Ralston met with his kick return team prior to the start of the new half. Denver, already ahead 14-3, would begin the second half with the football. And if they could score again, the game might be out of reach for Cleveland. Members of the Bronco defense who had done their job well in the first half watched as the Bronco offense continued to do theirs. On the first play from scrimmage, Armstrong broke free for 42 yards, but 2 plays later, from the Cleveland 28, Johnson lost the ball when hit by number 66, Mike Seifert. "47 yards later, Nick Roman rested on his laurels for quite a long time as Cleveland had possession on the Denver 14-yard line. Repeating the play from ground level reveals that Johnson was hit from the blind side and that the ball lay uncovered, tantalizing seconds before Roman scooped it up. But Denver was able to blunt the Brown opportunity. After yet another sack, Phipps tried for McInnes, but linebacker Tom Jackson made a nice save at the 5. Viewed from another angle, we can see that Phipps at last got time, and McInnes was open, but Phipps underthrew, enabling Jackson to get a hand on the ball. Cockcroft semi-saved the drive with a field goal, but Cleveland needed touchdowns, not field goals, and trailed 14-6. Still, they had gotten a break. The defense held, and Tom Darden returned a punt 45 yards to set Cleveland up again, this time on the Denver 33. But again, Phipps could not move the Browns in. And for the third time, Cockcroft came through. Cleveland now trailed 14-9. And though they had not taken full advantage of two big plays, they now trailed by less than a touchdown and had the momentum. It would take Denver just one big play to cancel it. Otis Armstrong went 33 yards and Denver upped its lead to 21-9. Armstrong now totaled 122 yards rushing for the day, and though Denver had been in danger of losing control of the game, defense and a potent ground attack had bailed them out. Defense and running, just the elements that the Broncos needed so they could control the rest of the game. Or could they? The weary Cleveland defense licked its wounds on the bench, secure in the knowledge that in 4 plays they would be back on field. Sure enough, on the first play of the fourth quarter, Mike Phipps arched a sideline pass for Gloucester Richardson that was caught in a crowd by Calvin Jones, who lateraled to Lonnie Hepburn for additional yardage. This is the last we're to see of Phipps today, so let's take another look. He actually had enough time on the play, but Richardson never came clear, and Phipps heard the footsteps, then felt the punishment of Barney Chavez. So the Browns' defense was handed the burden again, and this time they came through, although they had help when on third down, Charlie Johnson, off a nice play fake, overthrew an open man, number 30, Oliver Ross. Here, Nick Scorich made a big decision, and the growing crescendo from Cleveland fans quieted. Brian Sipe replaced Mike Phipps at quarterback. Officially, Sipe is a rookie, but he's been on the Browns' cab squad for several years. With his team down by 14, his task was not an enviable one. And for the first time since they traded away the popular Warfield, the Cleveland management made a concession to public opinion that the trade may have been a mistake. For instead of the highly publicized All-American from Purdue, Mike Phipps, an anonymous cab squad quarterback named Brian Sipe was at the controls. His first play was a good one, a quick out to Steve Holden at the right sideline. But there's more to quarterbacking than passing, and the change in quarterbacks brought a change in the intricate timing indigenous to offensive football. Kenny Brown's fine recovery turned a potential loss into a nice gain, but several plays later, the lack of timing was again evident. Brian Sipe kept his cool, but nearly lost his head, and can't you just hear that tried and true cliche, "Welcome to the NFL, kid." Now came the biggest single play of the game. Don Cockcroft caught Denver completely unaware, faked a punt, and ballooned the ball to a waiting and lonely number 21, Van Green. Cleveland had the ball on the Denver 16. A great Cleveland tradition, Abraham, the famed man in the brown suit, finally had something to cheer about. 3 plays later, it was 3rd and 10, and Sipe was again faced with extinction. But on a pressure play, he hit Steve Holden, who made the tough catch over the middle for a first down. Holden, though operating way below maximum ability due to his bad knee, made a very big play. His catch put the Browns on the 3. As the Denver defense dug in, watch Sipe calmly direct a teammate to the other side. This was important because though Greg Pruitt got in the end zone on the play, it was called back for illegal motion. So once again, the greenness of their young quarterback hurt the Browns, but once again, he bounced back to rectify his mistake. Sipe's gutty play brought the Browns to within 5 points, and an interested observer named Phipps watched as Sipe received accolades from his teammates. The Browns defense did their job and forced Denver to punt on the next series, and here, little Greg Pruitt broke the game wide open. "72 yards later, Billy Van Heusen collared Pruitt at the 3-yard line. The speedster from Oklahoma had been caught from behind, but his great return had put his team on the threshold of victory. Pruitt's return was even more remarkable because in Cleveland, the late afternoon sun drops low over the roof and shoots a bright beam while most of the field is in shadows. Pruitt had to field the ball while bathed in light, looking into the darkness. Difficult circumstances, to say the least. But he fielded it cleanly, and he returned it with fine downfield blocking sensationally. No one appreciated it more than the man in the brown suit, who has been cheering the team on since its inception in 1945. Cleveland was 3 yards away from victory, and here Skorich made a change. He removed fullback Ken Brown in favor of Hugh McInnes, a larger man. Skorich wanted better blocking, but watch number 37 McInnes's block as number 26 little Cal Jones rolled off it and caused the runner Pruitt to leave his feet and subsequently be tackled short of the goal line. With time running down, all eyes were on Sipe, who went to the sideline for a strategy session with Skorich. While he's a stranger to public attention as a pro, Sipe had plenty of it in college. One of a long line of pro-style passers developed by offense-minded Don Coryell at San Diego State, Sipe was a national passing champion in 1971 and broke all school records held by Don Horn and Dennis Shaw. Ironically, it was Sipe's fine preseason performance that prompted the Browns to trade fellow alumnus Don Horn to San Diego. Now from the 3, Sipe called a quarterback sneak and made the play of the day. Brian Sipe had his second touchdown in 3 minutes, and Cleveland had the lead for the first time today, 23-21. But while one quarterback was enjoying his first taste of glory on the sidelines, another was desperately trying to recapture his. With over a minute to go, Charlie Johnson and the Denver Broncos had plenty of time to win the game. After a pass to Jerry Simmons gained 21, Johnson tried for the bomb and lost when Tom Darden made a running interception and a 41-yard return. But unbelievably, it was still not over. Cleveland was called for holding, and Denver had another chance. Now, Charlie Johnson found Otis Armstrong free and clear over the middle, but a desperation grab by linebacker John Garlington knocked the ball loose. Armstrong would have surely scored had he held on. Now on 4th and 4, 35 seconds remaining, Denver had one last opportunity, a 51-yard field goal attempt by Jim Turner. The Browns bench tells the story as Cleveland pulled off the upset and ended their torturous 4-game losing streak. While a losing streak ended, a new story has apparently begun. For with his gutty pressure performance, Brian Sipe has obviously earned a starting opportunity. If he gets it, it would come next week against the Chargers in San Diego, the scene of his many college triumphs. Big question remains, however, will Cleveland ignore Sipes' heroic performance today or return to the beleaguered Mike Phipps? The National Car Rental Player of the Game is Brian Sipe for his gutty performance under the greatest of pressure.